Hey, what's up, guys? Darron Brown here. And honestly, this is a topic I really don't like talking about topics like this, but I feel like there's a need for it just because of some of the channels I've been watching. And there's a guy, I don't know his YouTube channel, but he's a young black engineer, and he made a video about this. And I felt like because I feel the way that I feel, I don't really have a victim mindset, and I feel the way that I feel, and I feel like it's good to just give different perspectives on this topic, and hopefully you get something out of it. Now, once again, if you see me looking down, that's because I want to get in the habit of just like authentically having, creating these videos, and so just so you know that it's just coming from the heart. So anyways, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at specific topics that I want to make sure gets mentioned in this video. Now, the first thing I want to go over is finding my first job. Now, prior to becoming a software engineer, mobile developer, I worked for the University of Utah's police department for 6 years. I wasn't a cop, I was in the security branch. So when you work for the police department, you have the detective branch, and then you have, I can't remember the branch that actually is for actually the police officers, may just be, I'm not sure what that branch is, but I was under the security branch. And we worked with the police officers. For whatever reason, officers didn't have access to buildings, but we do. So we would accompany them, and we just didn't have guns. So anyways, once it got closer to me graduating with my master's, I remember I was looking for jobs. And first I was looking for jobs in my master's, which is got my master's in information systems. So I was looking for jobs as a data analyst or some kind of analyst. In about 6 months, I didn't get any callbacks. I actually got a call back like 8 months later after I had already started working as a mobile developer. But within that 6-month period, I didn't get any callbacks. So what I did was I reached out. What I did was I said, hey, you know what? I've been doing a lot of software development on my own. So let me put out some of my projects and see what happens. So instantly I started getting a lot more feedback, and people started reaching out to me, which was cool. So I knew that, okay, this is gonna work. So anyways, when I had these interviews, most of the companies, they actually liked me. Most of the companies liked me, and I've only dealt with two bosses who were assholes. There was one company that I flew out to, I can't remember the name. I think it's BetterHelp. One company I flew out to in California, and the team liked me. I had a real good interview with the team. They're excited about me. I had two interviews with this company, and went really well. And then the boss just didn't like me once I stepped in there. He just was intimidated. I dressed well, and like I said, I'm just so handsome. So this dude, he was like telling me to do queries without even giving me a schema. So for those of you who are listening, who are new to software development, a schema is basically the database schema. It shows it just gives you a visual of the relationship between the tables within your database. And you need that in order to create queries. And then this guy was telling me to create queries for tables that didn't even exist, right? So I got into it with him, and then a lot of those people who were in that interview, who also I had interviewed with prior to that, they were just confused, and they were scared, and they just got quiet. So I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this shit. So I went back to Utah, and I had another interview with this other company. Same deal. The team liked me. I was in my third interview, and this boss, he was going on vacation, so he's like, oh, wait. He wanted to make sure I was in that interview. And I could tell he wanted to make sure he was there for that interview. So I could tell things were a little bit off. And then once I got in there, man, the team, they had a little coding thing for me. They loved me, man. The team liked me. It's the managers that didn't like me. So this guy came in, he was sitting to my left, and then he had like his Anakin Skywalker, his disciple, sitting in front of me. And then dude was just like, first thing he does, he comes in and just throws my resume on the table. And he's like, you know how to code? Like some little ass. And then dude, and I was like, yeah, I do actually. And then, and then he had his little minion, like I said, across from me. He was looking at me like, and then I told him, I was like, hey man, you in a bad mood? He's like, what? I was like, no, well, your friend looks like he lost his girlfriend, and you threw my resume on the table. And he's like, And I could tell the mood, the energy of it was just way different once he came in there. And you can actually see some of the engineers as he's speaking, and he would just give these like dick comments, and they would just go. My point is that for me, when I had these interviews, it's normal. You're going to get that time to time where people who are going to judge you based off how you look, and people are going to try to pay you less because of how you look. But it's up to you to create that standard. So before I actually even get into that standard, I'm going to go into the next part. So that's how the hiring process was for me. Even the first company I got hired for, they denied me initially. But the thing is that there's not a lot of people who can build mobile apps. They don't have the option. So they hired some guy that had been coding for like 30 years. But guess what? Mobile apps ain't been out for 30 years. You know what? They've only been out for less than a decade, I believe. So he couldn't do the job. So they hit me up later and they were like, hey, we made a mistake, yada yada. We want to have another interview with you. And then they were actually competing with me for my attention. They were competing with me against another company at the time. And I boosted that. I boosted it up. I put it up at like a California salary. I was like, look, this is what I want to get paid. You want me to stay in Salt Lake City? I'll stay in Salt Lake City if you pay me this. And then my supervisor was kind of like, but his boss was like, whatever you want, we'll give it to you. They gave it to me. So I lucked out, and actually, I had to fight for what I wanted. So go to the next topic. You're going to get uncomfortable coworkers. So at my last company, I was the only black guy, and honestly, I don't give a damn. I really don't care about that. I'm keeping it real. Like, there's something called like code switching. I just found out what that is. I don't give a damn about no code switching. I guess it's when you just go to work and you put on a different face. I don't put on a different face. I was raised respectfully. I was raised to treat people with respect, and I was raised to actually stand up for myself. So when I worked for this company, I was the only black engineer, and I remember one of the guys, I dressed pretty well. I dressed way better than I'm dressing right now. And I stepped in there, and one of the guys was like, he was trying to make a comment, and he was trying to be funny. He was trying to make a comment about the way I dress, and before he could even finish his sentence, I told him, hey man, stop checking me out. And everybody starts laughing, and he's like, hey, well, I'm not. And he had to think about it. He's like, I am checking him out, huh? Okay, and then he just started laughing. And he was cool for like the next 2 years. He was a cool dude. So you need to set that boundary, And then there's also other guys that were white in my company that were cool, man. They didn't trip off that. But there were other guys for the company, probably like one out of like the team of 15, who was like that, And I had to speak up with him a few times. He didn't say anything like super dry. I had one other guy, which is like his best friend, that was like, oh, my grandfather, I hope nobody's offended. He said like blackie or darky, and he said that because I was there. And then when he said that, everybody got quiet, and then I said, I'm offended. You need to sit down, be quiet, something along those lines. And he got quiet, he sat down, he never said nothing like that again. The thing is that he was a follower. He was friends with the other guy, and then because his friend was going to him, talking behind my back and gossiping, he was picking up on that energy. But once I stood up to him, he kind of was like, not my fight. So the thing is that a lot of times you work for these companies, you have these coworkers that you're dealing with. A lot of those people in those companies aren't necessarily racist. Not everybody is, but what it is most people are followers, and most people are cowards. Most people don't speak up, So when you don't speak up, you empower these assholes, So that's just something that you should probably check out, because I work for I don't work for that company anymore, but there's a few guys that I still speak to, that I do fantasy football with, or they'll call me and touch base with me, and that's because I built that type of relationship. So before I actually get into like my long-term rant, with that topic on stand up for yourself, let me go to the next part. Okay, so your voice not being heard. Sometimes you can work for a company where people just think that you're stupid. Like they forget that you're American. Like, people ask you a black person question, and it's just so odd to me, because I'm born in the United States of America. I'm from California. I can read. I know the same things that you know. I'm more educated than most of the people in this room. But you're going to encounter people for whatever reason. It's because of their programming. A lot of people you'll know, man. Once you've been in this world for a while, you've been working for a while, you'll know when you're dealing with a person that's really prejudiced, somebody that's racist, or somebody that's just like, you know, their wiring is just like off. Because I've worked with some guys that I get along with, and then for whatever reason, like some of them will just be cautious about me doing anything. Like, what about this? Can you do it? And I would do like, you know, they rub their head like, I didn't know, you know. So some people just think that for whatever reason you can't do your job, even if you are more educated than them, even if you have more experience than them, even if you know how to do the tool. There's going to be people like that. So, hey, that's something you're going to have to deal with. And like I said, there's a solution to all of this, but I'll let you guys know the solution at the end of this video. This is what it is. Okay, cool. The stand-up portion. So this is my take on all this, like, this racist stuff, man, because it's just annoying to me, because I hear a lot of black content creators on YouTube, where they're talking about relationships, or they're talking about anything, man. It's like, when you're watching a white YouTube content creator, and they address issues, they address those issues. They say, like, this happens, this is a man and woman issue. When they address the issues, it applies to everybody. Well, when you hear a black content creator, and I'm pretty sure if you're black, you watch this, you'll notice it's true. When they're talking about an issue, they'll say, like, they'll put black before the issue, and then what it is it wires us to think that this is just a black person issue, because they say, black people like this, or they'll mention something like, this happens in the white community, but it's worse in the black community. You know, that's like, what the hell is wrong with you? No, there's plenty of white authors who talk about haters. Robert Greene, one of them, the guy who wrote 48 Laws of Power, the guy who wrote the Laws of Human Nature. There's a lot of other authors that came before him, and authors that are out now, that talk about haters. I'm sure if you put in YouTube dealing with haters, there'll be a lot of white content creators. But for whatever reason, people think it's worse in the black community. I think that you have to be cautious of how you label yourself. Because in this country, put it like this, before, there's a famous comedian by the name of Michael Blackson. He's an African, right? And when he came to America, he was like, I didn't realize I was black till I came in America. And then people looked at him weird, but he's like, you know, in my country, everybody's black. We don't label ourselves that way. And I think that, you know, a lot of black people in this country, sorry, the video went off, but you forget that you're a man before you're a color. In this country, these labels were given to us. We didn't give ourselves these labels. You know, so the reason I'm saying you should be careful of, because here, if you identify yourself with a label, say it's black, say you're being Mormon, say you're Christian, say you're from whatever kind of like group, you tend to take on the beliefs of that group. And right now in America, there's so much going on. If you label yourself as a black person, it's like, if you don't have colored hair, or you don't speak a certain way or do something, people are gonna think you're not black. And that's not the group's fault. That's your fault for listening to the group. You have to have enough self-awareness to actually remove yourself from that and start seeing yourself not as a black person, but as a person. Once you see yourself as a person, you put yourself on the same level as every other person in this country. So I think that the biggest problem is that people see themselves as like, there's a us versus them. And you get into a workplace where you are the only black person, you automatically, you think I'm a minority. When I step into a workplace, I'm a fucking man. You're gonna respect me as a man, I'm gonna speak to you on a man level. I don't care what your beliefs are. This is how I walk through life, and this is how it's gonna be. And I think a lot of people, you have this like victim mindset, like you feel like you can't say something. You know, even with a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement, I love the movement, I love the protests. Any major change in this country that has happened, protests always started first. Whether it's the women's rights, whether it's gay rights, what happened recently. Women's rights have been protesting since like 1940s. You had workers protests, workers' rights protests. Every major change is always started with a protest. The biggest thing behind that is that there's action that needs to take place. Like, you know, a lot of black people, we'll complain about it, but we won't even go to, our best athletes go to like schools like the University of Utah. I'm one of them. You know, people go to these schools, but we don't go to schools in our own environment and help those communities grow. You know, it's just, We used to do this. We used to, like, I guess, what was it, Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, they said, like, hey, don't leave your communities, don't leave your businesses, don't leave your schools and go to these other schools. We did it, and then now what? Everything, we have ghettos now. Before that, it wasn't even like that. We had businesses, we had schools, we had money coming into the community. So a lot of these solutions, a lot of these problems can be solved really easy. It's just we're not conscious of it at the moment. We're thinking that the solution is out there, but it's really in here. All we have to do basically is put our attention from what's in the TV, because all the TV does is scare you, and then put it into, communities and people that look like you. That's how you change. You change the world economically. We live in a capitalist country. The NBA, the NFL, they don't care about you. They don't care, man. They don't care about. Before, when Kaepernick did that standing down Black Lives Matter thing, he lost his career. And he lost his career because it threatened money. The NFL was like, oh man, him doing this is going to hurt our money. Now the NFL is with it because, like, oh, if we don't get with this movement, it's going to hurt our money. They don't care. You have to care. It's not up to these corporations. It's not up to other people to care. If people care, they want to help you, that's lovely, man. I don't have a problem with anybody helping me. I don't have a problem with people supporting my business. But I don't concern myself with people who don't want to support my business. My point is that a lot of these problems will make them bigger than they have to be. If you just focus your attention on, if you focus your attention on something positive, and you also, we stop putting your energy into institutions that'll support you, that's the solution to that problem right then and there, man. But anyways, that's where I'm coming from. That's how I feel on this issue, and I feel like people just need to have a lot more backbone. You have to be willing to walk away. And that's not just in a work situation. That's with family relationships, that's with romantic relationships, that's with friendships. You have to set boundaries. And if you don't set those boundaries, you're gonna feel like you're a victim. You're gonna feel like you have no control in your life, but you really do. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. You need to follow me on social media because I'm trying to get popular. I want to be feeling myself. So help me start doing that. And then, yeah, man, tell people about my video. If you like what I said, share the video. Anyways, I'll get at you later. Peace.